Well, welcome to Idea Lab session. I'm Jess Larson. I work for an innovation and growth firm based out of Atlanta called 352. We've had the privilege of working with Operation Hope over the last few years and, in a small way, contributing to their incredible mission. I'm here with my colleague, Steve Borengasser. Hi, Steve. Steve and I will act as your room facilitators today. So we're here to keep you on time, keep us on topic. And if you have questions, you can feel free to flag down either one of us and we can help you out today. So our session topic today is defining well-being, transforming our approach to tomorrow. So we'll be discussing how we should be defining well-being in today's world, how this definition has evolved over time, and how and why we should be prioritizing well-being in our lives and as a society. So here's how the session is going to work today. As you see here, we have a wonderful panel of guests that I'll introduce in a moment. But they'll start by kicking us off with some discussion on our topic. Then at your tables, you'll discuss the topic even further with your group. Each table should have a table facilitator. Table facilitators, can you raise your hand for me? Okay, great. So they'll be helping the conversation along at each of your tables, where you'll be developing some big idea solutions to our problem. And then you guys are going to share out those big ideas at the end before we wrap up our session today. So allow me to start with some introductions. We have a really tremendous group of panelists here and a great discussion ahead of us. Let me start with Claire. Claire Angel, founder and CEO of Angel Consulting. She's going to be our moderator today. Welcome, Claire. Next, we have Brian Peckrell, Executive Director for the William G. McGowan Charitable Fund. Welcome, Brian. And then we have Shauna Stevens, SVP Consumer Banking Executive for Bank of America. Welcome, Shauna. And last but not least, Chantel Cohen, founder and CEO of CWC Coaching and Therapy. So I'll hand it over to Claire to kick off the discussion.
Thank you very much, and welcome, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here on an important topic, and I think we saw recently the Merriam-Webster official word of 2023 being authenticity. I have to imagine that if it was a survey or if people gathered in the room, a very strong contender for that word would have been well-being. It has been become a central theme in our lives as individuals, in our workplace, and really at society at large. And so I'm really glad that in a setting like the Hope Global Forums, this is also a central theme. So we have the task today to kick off the conversation in preparation for the roundtable and your contribution in defining well-being nowadays, and discussing organizations that are implementing programs to promote well-being and what are some of the challenges to scale those programs nationwide and globally. So this is what we'll do for the next 30 minutes, and then we will put you to work on that very same question so that we can come up with 5 big themes and ideas to really help promote well-being in our lives. So I'll start my question with Shauna. For a lot of people, well-being starts with 2 things: physical health and financial health. And the 2 are sometimes intertwined because it's hard to access physical health in many ways without the financial means to do that. So could you tell us from your experience with Bank of America what financial health and well-being is, and talk about what a company like Bank of America does to promote financial well-being for their clients, but also beyond for the community and for this country and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Financial health is economic mobility. It's financial know-how, and ultimately is financial stability for individuals, for families, and for the communities. Bank of America connects the communities that we serve to programs, products and services, access to capital, and philanthropic investments, because we want to make sure the communities that we're in are as strong as they can be. Now, we also know that one of the basics for financial health is a bank account. Without a bank account, people don't have a reliable means to start to save. They don't have access or a relationship with an institution so that they can have easy ways to borrow, to start a small business, to buy a car, or to establish that dream of home ownership. The FDIC has shared with us that there are 5.9 million unbanked households in this country. These households, as you would guess, are predominantly of people of color. They are predominantly people who live in low and moderate income areas. So one of the things that we at Bank of America do is that we cut across and we work with a lot of nonprofit organizations so that we can not just talk to people about the importance of a bank account, but we talk to them about how to manage their money. We started a financial literacy platform that we call Better Money Habits, and we launched it over a decade ago. And in this decade, we've helped millions of people get the financial information that they need and that confidence with that information to be able to make reliable decisions. And so with our Unbanked initiative, what we do is make sure that we're going out into the community, having individual sessions, and we're teaching people the basics on how to manage their money. Now, we wanted to also be proactive, so we wanted to reach students. We know that just going out and saying, here is our existing content, is probably not the way to reach students. We also know students don't do well with, these are the must things that you have to do. They prefer experiential. They want to be a part of the solution. So we took our Better Money Habits platform and we merged it with a financial literacy simulation so that students could have a fun and engaging way to learn how to save, how to borrow, how to spend, but then they learn what credit actually means so that before they get that first job, before those decisions really matter, they understand the basics. I know a lot of the basics that many of us here did not have when we first got that first credit card. We're trying to pour into the community so that students have that knowledge and information. And then in addition to that, we know that nonprofits always tell us, my clients are sick and tired of going to education seminars. They get it. They need 6 months of savings. But as you heard John say, oftentimes people have more month than money. So they need someone to sit down with them and give them a customized plan. Not the plan that works for you, but the plan that works for them. So that's why we partner with Operation Hope to take the Operation Hope Inside program into our financial centers. Today we have Operation Hope Inside in 192 of our financial centers, and we're expanding into additional locations. We particularly like to have the program in low and moderate income neighborhoods so that when people need to reduce their debt, create a savings plan, they want to improve their credit score, or they just want to improve their finances for their future, they have a path to be able to do this and get that help in a very personalized, one-on-one way. So what we've learned with our financial health tools that I just shared with you is it's not one size fits all. For certain people, our Better Money Habits platform is enough. But for other people, they do need that one-on-one guidance. So we want to make sure that we have different financial tools so that we can meet our clients where they are with the right tools and the right support to help them reach their financial goals.
Wow. When you say client, but I understand that not all of them are clients of Bank of America, correct? Because especially you mentioned unbanked people. So I'm curious if you could talk about, where you mentioned 150 plus location. Can you talk about where, geographically if there's a concentration on the East Coast, if you're also providing the services in rural areas, and also I'm curious around the business model for a company like Bank of America to provide those services. Is it part of corporate social responsibility, or it goes beyond, and there is the idea of doing well by doing good?
Absolutely. So with our programs today, Better Money Habits, available in English and Spanish, is available for anyone. You don't have to be a Bank of America customer. The financial literacy simulator that we do for students, again, it's for all students. If those students never walk through the door of Bank of America, we want to pour into them so that they have that financial education and those financial building blocks. Our Operation Hope Inside program, customers, non-customers, it doesn't matter. And the reason that we tend to do these programs is that it's who we are. It's our corporate identity. I think everybody at Bank of America can tell you we make clients' financial lives better. But we can't do that with a one-size-fits-all approach. So our community banking program is about making sure we're reaching out to the community, that we're talking to our market presidents, we're talking to the nonprofits, we're talking to clients, and we're understanding what their needs are. And then we're doing the right partnerships and the right programs so that we can meet those needs. Now, we scale these programs across the country, East Coast, West Coast, Northeast. If we have the Bank of America Financial Center, our goal is to make sure that those programs are in those centers, whether it's rural or major markets.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Chantal, my next question is for you. For a long time, so today we're talking about well-being, and we could not have this conversation without talking about the importance of the mental health topic. But that's somewhat new. For a long time, when we thought about well-being, we thought of those, we had a sort of hierarchy in our mind of first physical health and access to education and access to human services. Now we understand that without access to those services, first it impacts our mental health. And even for those of us who have access to those services, we can still struggle from a well-being perspective with anxiety, depression, burnout. So can you talk about what has changed? What are the trends you're seeing in bringing the importance topic of mental health to the forefront? And what are the challenges? So you have a company that provides mental health services with a specialty of serving underrepresented founders. So if you can also talk about what people come to you the most for, and what are the challenges you see across the board?
Okay, wow, there's a lot of questions in there. I'm gonna do my best. What I'm seeing that's changing, so hopefully it all makes sense. I'm a psychotherapist, but I'm also a business coach, and so we do therapy with a business coaching lens so that we see busy entrepreneurs and professionals, and it's really about making sure that we understand the leader and connecting them to their psychology so that they can run their businesses and have good mental health. And so some of the trends that I'm seeing that are really, really exciting are in corporations. I'm seeing that people are having the conversation. Unfortunately, the challenges are people are still very, very uncomfortable talking to someone about their mental health, and there haven't been enough protocols, sort of an initiatives from HR saying how do we do that in corporate America. What we do know is that for every dollar that's spent on mental health, you can expect $4 on return on investment. So the case is there, and that's hopeful. However, the challenges are, I work with a lot of founders who are people of color and women. And so for those of you who aren't, people of color, I see you too. I just happen to have a specialty, and I see all walks of, folks. However, I see these really tough conversations around the microaggressions that contribute to someone's mental health just sort of deteriorating and really becoming something that they can't tolerate at work, and no one wants to talk about it. That is one of the biggest challenges that I see. I also, from a macro level, I honestly don't see us, meaning Black folks, represented in the research that's being done on mental health. And so that trickles down, right? So what happens is, so sorry about that. What happens is someone is having a mental health crisis and they're already afraid of being labeled, and they've got somebody in a corporation who doesn't take the time to just say, hey, would it be more comfortable for you to talk to somebody of color? How can I help you have that conversation? And so that's one of the biggest challenges that I see. Is it's very simple, really. I mean, how many of us know someone who's struggling with mental health, but we haven't talked to them? We haven't said anything. And so there's a stigma and there's medical distrust among people of color because of Tuskegee, also what we see in obstetrics, lots of women dying and babies dying. And so the Black community especially feels it, and yet when it comes to mental health, no one is talking about it, from corporations to really just our tables, our dinner tables. There's that stigma that's there, but I don't want to let that stop us. It's not just the stigma. It's also because another challenge, and I promise I'll wrap up here, is that only 5% of therapists are people of color. And so it's really, really tough. I have a lot of South Asians, as well as Black folks, as well as Latinx folks, and we're just not represented. And then the barriers to entry are so difficult that we have to have 3 years, which it should be stringent, to actually get our license. But oftentimes those people, after you have to have a master's level or above, they are actually having to be paid $16 to $20. I had a client that I was providing supervision. She had graduated from University of Georgia, had lots of, obviously student loan debt, and couldn't pay it on the $16 she was offered. And so you're getting high rates of burnout, people who can't support themselves, they're not represented. There is hope, you guys, because we're here, right? But there's a lot of challenges. I hope I answered that question appropriately.
You did, and I asked more than one, so I apologize for the complexity of it. You addressed the issue of stigma, of access, and lack of representation in the mental health space. And has that improved at all? I think the topic of mental health has become front and center, especially since COVID-19. I'd love to know if you have seen this change favorably, or if it's still very much there, and also talk about what do you think can be done in order to overcome some of those challenges?
I think what you're asking me is, what have I seen since COVID-19? Has there been positive changes? Is that correct? Yes. If there are any Gen Zers or millennials in the audience, you should really thank yourselves for bringing all of this to the forefront. So the conversations are being had. I think COVID-19 exacerbated things, because then the mental health profession was really stretched, because we are I'd say about 47%, in fact, according to Kaiser's Family Foundation, 47% of the country is in a zone where there is not enough mental health professionals, almost half the country. So COVID-19, the positives are it really brought to light how important the biopsychosocial model is, meaning that the way I look at well-being is you have to look at the individual, not just for their psychology, but who's their support, who loves them, what is their health like, their financial health like. And so we have to look at that individual within their ecosystem. So I do think that there are lots of changes. I think those millennials and Gen Zers are really doing a great job on social about talking about it. I think the issue is there are not enough initiatives coming down fast enough, and so it's creating a lot of difficulties. I am so sorry, you guys. I wear a glucose monitor, and it's not near my phone, and it is just going off because it thinks something is going on, so I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you, Chantal. And you mentioned 47% of the being in zone without the proper infrastructure in place, and you compound out with less than 5% of licensed therapists who are African American in this country, and we can see the issue for people of color to have access to qualified personnel for that. So it just compounds the issues. Brian, so the McGowan Fund for a long time focused on providing human services and educational and health care related services, and you're still doing that. But I think what is interesting is, especially related to that educational component, you have somewhat recently, I understand, included resources to promote well-being in the workplace through the lens of ethics. And so could you tell us a bit about, those kind of historical services that you have provided, and also that shift, and why an organization like yours have made that shift?
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. First and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. The Hope Global Forum has exceeded my expectations, and learning with all of you is really a highlight to finish off this year. The McGowan Fund is in our 30th year, founded in 1993, and as you said, our mission is to eradicate poverty and alleviate suffering through grant making to not-for-profit organizations in education, healthcare, and human services. And from our very beginning, providing well-being has been core to that mission. Providing grants to help individuals graduate high school so they can pursue a better life, access to health care, something that in America is just too complicated in general, and providing a hot meal or a warm bed is crucial to well-being. And we're so honored that that's part of our mission, and we will always offer those services as long as it's needed in this country. But we have evolved as a funder. Initially, we focused on immediate need, on caring for people. And over time, we've began to address systemic changes to integrate caring and curing problems on a societal level. Recently, we've launched a workforce development initiative that uses researched, credentialed training with wraparound services such as transportation stipends, rent assistance, childcare, to help upskill employees. While that's solving systemic issues, as was said earlier, individuals are dealing with trauma. If we're providing a service for people that are 150% of the federal poverty line and below, all those individuals are facing scarcity. They're having to make difficult decisions in their everyday life. And research says that anyone who's facing that type of scarcity is in a traumatic situation that's affecting their long-term thinking, their long-term planning, their resiliency, their initiation and taking on difficult and hard decisions. In fact, research goes so far as to say that when somebody's in a situation of scarcity, their IQ can decline 14 points in a given moment. So we, first and foremost, our approach is trauma-informed. We acknowledge that when individuals make choices that may not seem in their best interest, that is not a decision that they are making fully, and they need to be supported, and we need to give everyone second chances. But we also need to have tools in place to help them. Like we heard from the CEO of Delta earlier, emergency cash. We provide individuals $1,000 unconditional cash payments, and that money helps, though it's a small amount, helps alleviate some of that scarcity and helps individuals make more calculated decisions. We also provide, like Delta said earlier, coaching to help individuals develop a framework for making long-term decisions, to determine how to create initiation, to take on difficult, challenging situations. So on our grant-making side, well-being and wellness has evolved over time to become much more of a complex approach that both addresses immediate need as well as systemic challenges. However, we had an inflection point in 2008. The financial crisis illuminated for us that all of our grant making, no matter how great it is, can't undo a financial collapse. Every single day, 160 million Americans go to work. And if most of those individuals are going to private sector jobs, if the private sector isn't healthy, functioning, and ethical, well-being cannot be secured. Essentially, what we realized is that ethics and well-being are intertwined, and businesses and business leaders making sound ethical decisions are crucial for well-being. And us as a foundation, we need to work in alignment with these organizations to ensure that we can actually have an impact, that we can actually make a difference. So we launched a leadership development fellowship for MBA students that are focused on taking high potential business leaders and providing them a leadership framework that helps them understand the impact that their business decisions have on individuals, both positive and negative. We're into our about 14th year of this program. Around the time of the pandemic, we took a look at our program. It involved a not-for-profit consultation project, events like this event here today. We realized that it wasn't going far enough. So we redesigned our program to include an experiential engagement that exposes these business leaders to an experience that causes cognitive dissonance, something that makes them realize where they are, where they want to be, and the gap between that, and how that they can get there. We layer coaching on top that's focused on leadership and decision-making so that they can understand how their values can be reflected in business decisions so that they can become the leaders that they want. The experience that we have chosen is youth experiencing homelessness. We take all these business leaders, these emerging business leaders, and bring them to Chicago in January, and we bring them out in the dead of night to participate in the census of the unsheltered population of Chicago. We visit youth homeless shelters, and more than anything, we listen. We provide a venue for these fellows to hear from these individuals, to learn how business decisions have affected their families, and to learn how that has, to hear the dreams and aspirations of these individuals and what they need to thrive. Through these experiences, we hope that we're creating that next generation of leaders that can enter into the private sector and make business decisions, like the amazing leaders we've heard from here today that really help create a society in which our foundational work to alleviate poverty and the private sector are in alignment.
Wow, seeing business as a force for good. And is the focus exclusively on future leaders? Do you also work with existing leaders of companies? Do you work mostly focusing on the future leader of Global Fortune 500 or also small and business-sized company? Can you help us understand the population you target?
Yeah, absolutely. So we predominantly work with second-year MBA students at the top MBA schools across the country, as we believe that these individuals will raise through the levels and enter into the C-suite and have the most impact. We're in our 14th year. That first class is doing exactly what we hoped. Actually, we launched an award just 2 years ago called the Ethical Leader of the Year Award, in which we hope to highlight instances of values-based leaders who are making a sincere difference in people's lives in the corporate setting. This year, we gave our award to the CEO of Delta, Ed Bastian, who spoke earlier today, for the exact things that he discussed today. So while we're focused right now on the next generation of leaders, we're trying to highlight some of those leaders that today are making a difference in people's lives through business decisions that have both a business and a societal impact.
Wow. I mean, for me, it gives me a lot of hope because when we look at traditional capitalism, we see, a system that has brought a lot of the most complex global challenges we see today, from income inequality to climate change. And yet, I believe by hearing stories like that capitalism can also be the solution. That we've yet to invent a better system that capture human ingenuity at scale. And that if we align those values with people, profit, planet, we can really be a global force for change. And that's quite inspiring. So thank you, Brian, for sharing that story.
Thank you.
So we've talked about well-being from different lenses. And so I think what emerges is that it's becoming much more holistic than a definition we may have maybe just a decade ago. And also the variety of stakeholders involved in promoting well-being is evolving. For a long time, that was the purview of the public sector to provide that sense of safety. Now we see that the private sector is stepping up, that nonprofit is stepping up, and it's really the business of everybody to promote, to help people thrive inside and outside of the workplace. So we've mentioned a few programs. I know, Chantal, you're particularly involved with one with Google for Startup. Your company provides all the mental health session for Google for Startup Black Fund as well. So they're wonderful initiative. But as we look at the big picture, and I want to address this question to the group because I don't even know how much time we have left. All right, 3 minutes. So is really, what will it take to scale? What are the challenges what is preventing us from scaling those different programs so that everyone in this country can have access to it? And really giving hope that it's not just going to be a Bank of America or Delta or Google initiative, but it's really going to be part of a much holistic solution. Who wants to start?
I'll start. One of the biggest issues that we see is trust. I talk about the unbanked and why people choose not to have a bank account. It's not for lack of information. It's not for lack of, there's somebody's financial center on every corner in every place for the most part. We know there are some banking deserts, but in general, there are access to banks, but a lot of people just don't trust banks. Don't trust that if you tell me it's going to be free, will it actually be free tomorrow? You're providing me credit counseling, and it's free. Is it really free, or is there a catch? Why are you pouring into me? What is the benefit for the bank to want to see me have healthy credit? And people don't realize that when the communities that we're in succeed, we all succeed. So there's not a benefit to any industry, especially to a bank, to have people who are financially unhealthy. But when people hear that here's a free program and we're going to work with you until you get there, until your credit gets to 700, until you reach that goal of home ownership. And oh, by the way, we have programs that can help you pay your down payment grant and your closing costs. Sounds too good to be true. I don't trust it. There's a sign that says there's help right here. It won't impact your decisions with the bank if you decide to take advantage of these programs. I don't know. I've had a bad experience in the past with a financial institution, so I don't trust it. And so I think with us and scale, we are a pretty large bank. We have the infrastructure, we have the community volunteers, we have the capital to be able to go out. One of our biggest issues to scale is really that trust. And that's why working with nonprofit partners is so critical, because people do trust nonprofit partners. They've received services from nonprofits. They've gone to them when they did not have other options, and it proved to them to work out for them. So what we see, if we can partner with these types of entities, then we can help close that gap for trust. But that's what we tend to see. The programs can be phenomenal, but sometimes people think they're too good to be true, or I just have various trust issues. And so that is what keeps us at bay in terms of making our programs even bigger than they are today.
Thank you, Shauna. Chantal, I would imagine trust comes into play when it comes to mental health, and you touch upon stigma. You also touch upon lack of representation. I'd love for you to expand on that, and what are solutions that you can think of that would help with promoting career path to more folks, especially African American therapists?
What would help more all of us have more African American therapists? Obviously, it would be access, so that people are not so challenged with student loan debt that they can't actually have access to a good paying job. Is it okay if I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I work with all these wonderful entrepreneurs and founders, and just last night I was telling Claire that I had my own sort of mental health challenge with my best friend's son, and this young man is amazing. Graduated from Cornell, 23-year-old. He is state decathlon. I mean, you can't imagine. Went to Westminster and had a mental health crisis, and it took 3 black women sitting around a table to make sure that he got the services that he needed. So I know the system isn't helping a lot of us, but we have the power as a community to sit down and talk through this. It's so important that we not be afraid to talk to one another about what's going on. So I know it's a little different. I feel very impassioned, I guess, today about, I've been crying mostly all night over this. And so just know that you have a lot of power, but you have to talk about it. Talk about it with each other, your families, even if at work, wherever it may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantal. And it's a reminder also, I think that you and I talk about this, that it's a time of year where many of us celebrate. It's the holiday. There's a lot of pressure to be jolly and happy. For a lot of us who have lost loved one, it can be a really challenging time of year. It's also a time of year when we reflect on the past year, on the hopes of the next one, and it can feel daunting. So I think it's a good reminder to all be a little bit kinder with each other, but mostly ourselves. So thank you, everyone, for being part of that first session. I think we're past due to hand over the mic to you.
Ryan, I hope I didn't take your time.
Oh, it's quite all right. Don't worry about that.
We'll give him special treatment later. Thank you. So I'm going to kick off our table session. Before I do that, I want to ask everybody at the tables, if you're a table facilitator, could you raise your hand and hold your hand up? Raise your hand and hold your hand up. Is there any? All right. Do you see a table without a facilitator?
In other words, if you're at a table without a facilitator.
Yeah. So if you're at a table without a facilitator, move to a table with a facilitator, because we've got plenty of room at those tables. Thank you. I'm going to give you guys instructions, and I want to make sure the room's set up for you guys, though. Okay. Table facilitator, switch hands if your hands get tired. Thank you. All right. All right. Is everybody settled? Everybody at a space with a table facilitator? Okay. All right. We've heard some amazing, brilliant voices up here today. And now it's time for you guys to have a voice. All right? Now it's time for the room to have a voice. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to narrow, we're going to come up with some ideas. We're going to come up with some solutions, some actions to take related to this broad definition of well-being that we've been talking about. So we want you guys to come up with ideas on solutions to problems with well-being. What's the problem with doing that? That's pretty broad. We've talked about a broader definition of well-being over time. And so where do you start? And we've heard about a definition of well-being, a problem around representation in mental health, research and delivery of services, financial literacy. We talked about basic needs not being met, right? So what are we going to solve for at a table? That's where you're going to start. Start by picking a problem related to well-being, all right? Come up with ideas. And at the end of 30 minutes, you're going to share your top 1 to 2 solutions, and I'll tell you how you're going to share those, okay? So you got 30 minutes. Brainstorm at the table. Listen to your table facilitator. Pick a problem to solve under the umbrella of well-being. Come up with some solutions. Pick your top 1 to 2. 30 minutes. Any questions? All right, go. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't. All right, in about 10 more minutes, I'm going to give you guys instructions on sharing out. So about 10 more minutes of discussion. Okay. Had the last person that writes bring it over to me anyway. They can just bring the board over. I'm going to stand in one spot. It's all right. I don't know if, they coming up with stuff? Have you heard anything? I haven't been listening. Okay. I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, they are good. Yeah. Yeah, I think they will. I know. Oh, yeah, I never did get to look at it because I was doing my math. I'm going to go look. Yeah. No, I'm not either. Oh, that's... No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is really cool. That's cool.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
Yeah, okay. think, yeah, there's some good discussions happening.
So be what?
There's some good discussions happening, so that's good.
Dealing with allergies that plug up my ears.
Oh, mine are,
Can't
yeah.
hear anyone
My
right
plugged
now.
are too, and mine are also plugged, and I can't talk, so I don't know how loud I'm being. Oh, that's okay.
Repeat yourself, and also I'm having
Yeah.
trouble hearing the discussions amongst the chatter. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear like once
Oh,
they start.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know how loud my own voice is when I'm talking. That's my problem.
I feel like sometimes when I think I'm whispering, it's like that
Yeah.
Homer Simpson
Oh,
whisper.
yeah,
you
that's
know?
right. That's right. It's not actually a whisper.
So what's your day job where you say you're used to doing stuff like this?
So I work for 352.
Yeah.
Do you know 352? Have you worked with
I
them?
know
At?
of you.
Okay.
Like, I haven't worked
Yeah.
with you personally, but I know who you are.
So I've done a lot of facilitation of discussions. My role at the company is it varies, but I've been right now I'm an executive vice president. But when I was on client work, I was a business lead, and so my job was really facilitating a team to develop business cases for innovation.
Cool.
It was usually groups that size, right? Not
Yeah.
like this size.
Yeah.
But I've done this too. I worked at Kimberly Clark for a number of years and did United Way breakfast selling, like
Yeah.
this big and like that. You said you worked for consulting. Where did you work?
Are you from LA?
No.
Okay. There was a consulting firm there that's like pretty well known. It's called Breakout and Associates. Like it's known in entertainment and tech, or if you live there, but like it's not known to the rest of the U.S. really. We had clients like fun projects, Logitech, like technology, video games, stuff like that. Before that, I worked for a kid and family consulting firm called Smarty Pants, which is like everyone knows the vitamin thing, Smarty Pants. So then I'd be like, everything vitamins. But yeah, it's fun working with the kid and family space for sure. I got to talk to kids about everything from like Nerf products to like healthy food that's packaged in a way that they'll eat it.
My first job was actually working in the Huggies diapers business. First job out of college. And that was pretty cool. I was a material scientist and then I worked in manufacturing.
Oh wow! Material scientist sounds like a very legit job.
It kind of does.
First job.
Yeah, it was a solid first job. Yeah. Material scientist for diapers. My job was to help make them nothing. That's right. We got discounts on diapers for our own kids at the time, so it was good. 18 and 20. That was a long time ago.
Wow. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Your parents were listening.
It's hard. It's a blessing. It's both. It's a blessing and a curse.
When people talk about being parents, I want to be like, thank you for your service.
All right, I'm gonna tell the guy to turn my mic on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you should be wrapping up your table discussions, which means table facilitators should have one or two ideas that you want to share with the rest of the group. Are you guys at that point? Is there anyone who's not at that point? Nobody's raising their hands. So you're either not going to admit it to me, or you're all good. So table facilitators, you should have one or two top ideas that you're ready to share. Okay, I'm going to tell you the method of sharing in a moment. Okay, so is everybody ready to share their ideas? So we're going to try something a little bit different this year. So I'm going to ask these four tables here. So your table facilitator at each table, get up and go to that board. All right, table facilitator, bring your ideas with you. Don't forget your notes. Get up and go to that board. I want these four tables plus that table to go to this board. Table facilitators only with your notes. And then everybody else come to this board. That's these four. So, table facilitator at each table, stand up and come to the board. I'll tell him. Not yet. I'll tell him. Okay. You're a table facilitator for a table? Okay. All right. Every table facilitator should be making their way to a board. All right. We've got too many at this one, so I'm going to ask.
Might have missed our
That's okay. You two,
right over there.
you two go over here, please.
Okay.
Okay. All right, table facilitators, listen to me. All I want you to do as a table facilitator is write your number one idea on the board. All right, write your number one idea on the board with the marker that's on the board. So we're just making you take notes for us too, so we don't have to do it, because Jess and I don't like to work too hard. Jess works hard, I don't. Yeah, just write right on this. Right on this. Please write legibly, because I'm going to read them out loud in a minute. Hey, what's going on? So you guys, I'm going to read. You guys just listen and make a comment about themes you hear, okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah? I'm just going to read the list from each.
So we're just gonna like editorialize.
You're just going to editorialize. You're talking heads.
That's a great.
And you can go first because you talked that last segment. We had to cut you off. Yeah. and Chantel, I'm going to give you your mic back after I'm done with it, okay? Yeah. All right. Table facilitators, writing legibly, please, on the boards. Bullet points, not paragraphs. How many tables is this? 4? We got 3 out of 4 done. There's some expansion. Yeah. That's fine. I'll allow that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Will you bring that to me when she's done with that? Okay, thank you. How many of y'all have done? We got 3 out of 4. Well, 1 in progress. Okay. Go ahead and bring it. Yeah. So y'all are gonna have 5 ideas here?
Yeah, 5 ideas.
All right.
However, I think they will come.
Okay. Yeah, we're almost done back there, so I think I'm gonna have some of them move over here since they're taking a minute. I shouldn't agree. Oh, yours is like 2 words. No. Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, mental health stigma, availability, and communication. Yeah. Well, there's something that you're going to do. Yeah. Well, if you've got a solution, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If you've got a solution in mind, yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Mental health stigma, availability, communication. Is that a solution?
I just clarified with them.
did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, they're gonna update. Yeah. So if you've got a solution in mind for that problem, then yeah, write that. If you guys had one. All right, who hasn't written theirs yet?
As soon as she's done, I'll get
You're the only one who hasn't? Everybody else has
Everyone
written?
hasn't
Okay.
written. Yep.
Okay. I'm going to read all these out, so you'll be able to hear me too. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So listen to my voice. Yeah. And the way it's going to work, I'm going to read them out. They're going to editorialize on them a little bit, so there'll be a couple more chances for you to hear.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You don't have to put up that tripod. I'll just move. I can just like move stand in one spot, you know what I mean? All right. This is the last one here, is that correct? Okay. And these are done, so actually, I might actually start. So maybe I do. Because I have no idea how long they're going to take. They're writing slower than. Just put it right in the middle of the two, I guess. Yeah. We're fine. I'm just going to start. Actually, maybe I'll put it over there. All right, you guys done? Oh, cool. Okay. All right. You guys are all right. I'm going to go ahead and start while y'all are finishing up. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now share out the ideas for well-being solutions to the rest of the room. So if you guys could take your seats, if our panelists could take their seats, please. We're going to share out some solutions that we heard. So this is the part where you guys get to hear me represent other people's ideas that I was not a part of generating. So I'm going to do my best. Ladies and gentlemen, please, up here. Listen. Thanks, guys. Listen. Thank you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read through these ideas. I want everybody to listen. You guys jot down notes about themes that you hear, connecting points that you hear. If there's questions about the ideas that are listed here, talk to one another about the ideas in the in-between times during the forum. What we're going to do is I'm going to read these out. Our panelists and our moderator are going to listen, and they're going to be thinking about themes too. We're going to close it out. They're going to each share thoughts on themes they heard from the ideas that you guys generated. Okay, and then Operation Hope's going to take these away. And we've got some action items to think about. All right? So I'm going to read these ideas. So we're defining well-being. We're solving for the broad problem of well-being in different ways. The first group, mobile education. So education that comes to you is a solution to consider. Mobile education. Effective community training resources. So what kind of training resources? Which table said that one? Effective community training resources. What are they training on? What problem for well-being are you guys solving for?
Thank you all for having me. I was speaking more so from a fundraising space. Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. So I was speaking more so from a fundraising and higher education space. We talk about the community part, and you start talking about DEI and how that's implemented in the workspace. A lot of times through Title IX, folks run out of funding on one end of the equation, and then two, it's hard to hold everyone accountable for the measures that you put in place, i.e. a tenured professor is outside of the parameters of effective ways you can hold people like that accountable. So when you're really dealing in the DEI space and start thinking about community and in the way you invest, you have to think more broadly about how to change culture in this space, and then re-engage how you have the conversation, how do you put the proper legal means from a general counsel standpoint, from a policy standpoint, and how that trickles down into the leadership of the organization to model the behavior that you want your organization to be.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thanks for that clarification. So number 3 here, awareness campaign. So more ongoing training and resources, inclusive of sensitivity training. That's interesting. So a connection between sensitivity and well-being, sort of tackling the problem with maybe a lack of sensitivity in that. Funding partnerships with larger organizations, including community clinics and programs like AA for mental health. So community programs for mental health. And then more access to wellness services such as therapy, yoga, massage, nutrition from companies. So there's a theme there I'm hearing about employers and companies providing solutions. Our second group. So companies provide access to therapists to trainees on how to handle mental health issues. You may train the trainer, and it might be somebody from within the D&I organization, it looks like. Number 2, earn and build trust through relationships, human to human, that are intentional, based in unconditional love. Man, wouldn't that be nice? Based on unconditional love through nonprofits, and hold social media accountable. So there's a lot there. So trust through relationships, human to human connections are an answer. Nonprofits are part of the answer, and holding social media accountable is part of the answer in there. And then finally, normalizing mental health is a key component of public health and incentivizing access. That's interesting. How do we incentivize access to mental health as part of a solution? This group got at least creative with how they wrote things. I like that. It's the messiest board. This looks like my office here. So solving for the mental health stigma, availability, and communication around it. Non-stigma programs like art therapy, I love that, art therapy, and education around mental health. Knowing resources for those who are unemployed and don't have access to resources. Working hand in hand with being able to discuss mental health with others, helping others organize, recognize, and define their own well-being and building trust. We've got a solution around the impact of food insecurity on physical and mental well-being, which would be reallocating surplus food to low-access areas, increasing awareness for available access, partnering with organizations with access to rural communities, and food deserts. So another large organization accountability here, but pushing access to food for food deserts for food. Start with building trust, another trust theme here, by listening to the story first of each individual. Took me a minute to read that. A company advocate for basic needs and mental health and well-being. So there's another example of the company being responsible. Creating a culture of care, leader training, employee and resource groups, and over-communication on mental health and wellness, as well as demonstrating how to address, and it looks like examples of positivity and the issue, how to address mental health issues in the workplace. This was an example of how you might. So people need training, and I would say as a leader, I need training on how to handle mental wellness issues in the workplace. That would be very valuable for me. All right, so those are the ideas that we heard around wellness. We heard some themes, and so I'm gonna hand it over to you guys. What themes did you guys hear? And what are your final parting thoughts for this group today? You got one.
One theme that I'll start with was the theme of technology as a tool for wellness. There was the mobile education. And I do think that, as we all know, technology can be a tremendous tool to promote wellness. But there's like two things that I have concerns about. The first is equity and equity. People talk about remote work as an entity that's been created that can promote wellness, but not everyone gets to work remotely, and oftentimes those who are in more service jobs don't. So I think it's important to think about how we can use technology to improve well-being for even those individuals. And the second piece is we're just entering this age of AI, and it's a terrifying time. And while it might be able to create well-being, doing so in a way that's ethical and is really person-centric is, I think, super crucial.
What I heard people saying, or as you were reading the cards, were that they really see this as something where the private sector can really get involved. And honestly, they have the most resources and the ability to do so. But just think about it. We spend about a third of our lives at work. So it does make sense that this problem could be solved with private sector funds. So I'm hearing that. I'm hearing all sorts of great ideas around what to do. I heard something about an advocate, and I thought, wow, that's whoever came up with that idea, it's almost like a chief mental health officer or something like that. I could get on board with that, by the way. It just sounds really cool. It's funny, there's a show called Billions. I don't know if you guys have ever watched it. And I think you guys know that I work for Google for Startups, I work for Lenovo, I work for CARE, there's my team and I, and we go into these organizations and people always say like, oh my gosh, you're kind of like Wendy Rhodes. And I'm like, no, without the conflict of interest. So I do think that you guys are on the right track, that we probably are going to see more mental health professionals who are, so the work that I do for Google, I can't even give the names of the individuals I'm seeing. So it is completely private, and so what happens is you build a lot of trust. And believe it or not, that program is utilized between 55 and 77% of the people. So that's a lot. So it's really needed. So I love the ideas that you're talking about. Some of them are kind of quasi in existence, and others I think are just forming.
I heard a lot about listening and creating and prescribing solutions based on what you're hearing and the need for awareness. So what I took from that was, if sometimes people don't know what they don't know and they don't know what's available. So if they had someone who they could talk to, and then that person could then prescribe to them how they get from point A to point B, whether that be mental health, physical health, or financial health. People don't know what's available, so how can they have someone to talk to as a starting point so they don't have to figure it out for themselves?
And when I heard this point, I saw, well-being at the community level, at the organization level, well-being fostered by technology, but also the importance of relationship and active listening. When it comes to the organization level, and Chantal, I saw recently in the papers that there is a chief well-being officer position that has been created in some companies. So yes, it's happening. I would say that I think we have to be careful in not putting mental health with the meditation, yoga, massage, that for me falls into perk and can be helpful, but it's an and, in the sense that if your company provides a massage but then pays below salary rates or doesn't provide fair PTO or paid parental leave, I think that there are things that also can be masked a culture of toxicity, frankly, behind, oh, we have a chief well-being officer. So it's an and. It's not, I think, a replacement for just promoting basic human dignity. Thank you.
I'll just jump on that point there. Earlier we were discussing the relationship of well-being and in business. And 10 years ago, there was a lot of discussion around CSR. This idea that, the business is going to do this, but we're also going to do something good on the side. I think it's a little reductive. It's saying that, our business actually can't do well. We can't actually have an impact that benefits society and have a business impact. My hope is that in the same vein you were saying around providing massages and not paying a living wage, organizations should be celebrated when they're able to provide wellness, and it's part of that business impact. And I think that we've had some really good conversations today about that.
All right, please give our speakers and our moderator a round of applause. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time today, and thank you all of you for your ideas and your answers. This concludes our session.